I got a call on a bad day, and it was one of these fintechers, and they're like, you did such a great job paying off that other loan. We want to talk to you about this. And I literally said, nope, no, thank you. I don't have time right now. And he goes, can I ask why? And I said, because I think you're and I don't know how you sleep at night. And I hung up.
Melissa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Welcome to Waverly Brewing Company.
Yeah, well, cheers.
Cheers. And can we just talk about what we're drinking?
Yes. Fill us in. What are we drinking?
Okay, so this is the black and orange. We intentionally did not bring it out until we knew where we were in the playoffs. We thought that it might be bad luck. I wanted to name it Fall Ball. But we went with black and orange. It is a tangerine and black tea ale.
I taste both, actually.
Yeah.
I taste the tangerine.
Doesn't it kind of remind you of like a Snapple? Like in the best way, not like a shitty Snapple. Sorry,
awesome.
Snapple, but not a shitty Snapple, but like a really good one that's a light, refreshing.
Yeah.
But we're super happy about this, and we love baseball, so anything that we can make in a baseball theme.
Yep.
And I did not bring back Catcher Crush. I felt like it was going to put too much pressure on Adley. So we decided to retire that one until next spring. He's tired. It's September. The man needs a break.
Yeah.
So this was kind of our replacement for that. So
you guys come out with some really unique beers. I feel like that's kind of your thing, right? Like you're always testing different flavors and trying new.
We do. I mean, we try to be a little bit more experimental, but not too much to the point where people are like, I don't want to drink that. That's weird.
Yeah.
I don't like to go and get a drink and see that there are chunks in it. Yeah. I don't like to not be able to see through my beer, except for hazy, and it all depends on what kind.
Love a hazy.
But we want to be experimental as far as we like to consider it a constant rotation, kind of like a soundtrack of beers that we really, really love.
Yeah.
And we bring them back seasonally. No Kings, Pale Ale, that is one that we've had since day one.
That one is awesome.
That's our steady guy. He is there all the time. Sometimes we run out of it because people like it too much. But we try to, make sure that we're being mindful about the products that we're using, because we do buy seasonal products. We're making sure to not go and get something shipped to us that is going to be, thousands of miles to get here. We make sure that we can find as much stuff local, as much stuff regional.
Yep.
And that plays a big part into what are we going to make today is more about like what's in the market versus making the market come to us.
Yeah.
Which is something that's really near and dear to us, because we do consider ourselves a neighborhood brewery. Mm-hmm. We like to make beers for, not just everyone in the regional area. We welcome everybody, but we have a really big squishy heart for our neighborhood. Lower Hamden is a special place. Some generations have been here for 60 years and over. But we like the walkability of the neighborhood, and we like to make beer that our neighbors like, and they tell us what they like. So we like to say, they don't like this beer. We're just going to get it off the menu.
Yeah.
We don't try to push it and tweak it just to make people happy. We listen. The trends of sours has changed a lot. We always will have a sour, but it'll always be a different flavor. We are going to be making a blueberry pie sour, which is lovely. It's so good. Actually, it might be pie or muffin. Either way, it's one of our favorites. We call our sour lines the goat, except for the Tropic of Capricorn, because we didn't use the oat milk. But the goat line, we've had blackberry, we've had blueberry, passion fruit, you name it. But we won't have 3 of them. We won't have 4 IPAs, because we just kind of want to let people enjoy the adventure of it. So we do have a lot of fun. And we have a lot of fun with the names, for sure.
You do, yeah. Very creative naming. And, speaking of...
Thank you.
the community feel that you mentioned, I wanna go back to that, because actually how you started Waverly, you told me this last time I was here.
Yeah.
It was kind of a impromptu, random
It was a terrible.
story.
It was a terrible idea. Is what it was.
Your husband came up to you at a party, kind of drunkenly, and was like, "We gotta open a brewery." And let's dive into that. How did that happen?
So, my husband goes back with Roy nearly over 30 years. They were all in a band together called Pulaski. Great band.
Like Pulaski Highway?
It was actually, sometimes it depends on who asks and who answers, but mostly I think the inspiration was based on Kazimierz Pulaski, who was the inventor of the axe, and the definition of the axe was both sharp and dull, much like much of them. So prior to being Pulaski, they were sick. They were just a really fun punk band, and I worked, I don't like to say I worked in the music industry. I worked really around music, and I got into the A&R and promotions of music, and so I started managing this band. A bunch of guys that I thought were really cool. Of course, the lead guitar ended up being my boyfriend, now my husband. But we've all known each other for a really long time. We've all been creative together. We've all really enjoyed doing things together. And there was two things that were going on as we all progressed into adults and got married and had kids. But there was a barbecue competition team that's called Team Meat Coma. That has the drummer and his wife, and we donate a lot of great beer to them to be able to experiment with. And then Roy, who was the lead singer of the band, he had a weekly brew session with one of his best friends out in Parkville, Rob Bankin, and it was again very community spirited. He was going to brew. He was going to invite his friends over to help them brew, and this is early to mid 2000s, so nobody really knew about it, and so they were interested. And then Roy just got really, really good. I mean, he is really good, but he got so good at the home brewing that he started making beer for our weddings. He made beer when we had a baby. He made beer for any occasion, and it was a lot of fun. And so my husband has a background in business development, and he's kind of someone whose wheels are always spinning. And so we had one of our meat coma parties, and the party is that we all got together and we brought weird things. You weren't allowed to bring a fruit platter. You weren't allowed to bring a charcuterie tray. It just had to be something that needed to go on a grill, and the weirder the better.
Yeah.
And so we hosted this meat coma party, which is where the barbecue team got their name, at my house. It was the end of the night. I was cleaning up, and I looked over in the corner, and I saw Roy and my husband sort of, giddy. Again, just joyful, like children in the corner who are doing something they're not supposed to be doing. And I looked over, and I was like, "What are you guys talking about?" And my husband just looked at me and goes, "So I'm going to need you to just, whatever you're doing now, just stop." And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Boy.
And he's like, "I know you got a career, and I know you got clients, but just call them, tell them you're not going to do that anymore." And I was like, "No, that's not going to happen." And I said, "What are you guys talking about?" He goes, "Well, you're going to be like the chief operations for a brewery. It's going to be great." And I said, "No, we're not. I'm not doing that. You're not doing that." And Roy, of course, again, in the corner like a child with a giant smile on his face, happy as could be. And the conversation, I think, ended that night with me saying, jokingly, I love my husband dearly, and he knows I joke a lot. And I said, number one reason why we're not opening a brewery, we cannot afford an attorney who would be there to represent me in a case of a divorce. So that's not going to happen. And he was like, "It'll be fine." He's an optimist. And, many sober months later, and clarity and putting, pieces together. And, my husband had his own thing going on, but he really wanted to be behind bringing together people that he really cared about and kind of coaching everyone through the process. I had about 15, 20 years in upper management, a little bit of hospitality, a little bit of retail. And Roy had always been into software. He was doing QA. And so the idea of all these people who have never run a restaurant, never run a bar, we just went to bars. That's all we knew of it. And it took a long time. It was about 2 or 3 years of development, ideas, thinking about it. We wanted to be a brew pub. Realized that was, I think this was 2000, maybe 13, and we were like, no, that's crazy. We're not doing that. Nobody's got time for that. And, we searched around. It was more like, when you're buying a house, you want to buy a house in the next 5 years. You just don't know where.
Yep.
You don't know when. You don't know how much money it's going to take. You just know you want to do it. So we all optimistically always kind of kept an eye out on what's happening in the city, what real estate is out there. And we looked, and at the time the real estate was horrible. There was nothing open.
Yeah.
There were no available spaces. And then one night in February, we were all out to dinner, and I was with Roy, his girlfriend, and I, and my husband said, oh, we got to make a stop before we go home. And this was one of those nights in February. It's -3.
Yeah.
Cold. I'm ready to go home. I'm like, no, I'm not stopping anywhere. Let's go home. And he pulls up, and he pulls out of his pocket these keys and just jingles them. I'm like, what is happening now? And he brought us in. He opened up the door. This was nothing but concrete. And he said, what do you think? And I said, I think you're having a nervous breakdown, and we're going to get you the best therapy that money can buy. This is insane, because it was nothing but a concrete shell. And we walked around, and again, lots of hesitation, lots of is this right for us? We have 4 children. At the time, they were much younger. I was sending my oldest son off to college. It was just a very stressful time. And the idea of doing this was ridiculous. And every single person we knew close in our family were like, you're doing what? Excuse me? No, this is a very bad idea. And it just happened to be one of those projects where the momentum itself was keeping us in it versus us. There were also many people behind us that were backing us and saying, do this. This is great. This is a fantastic idea. And then, we got the keys to this place, and we did the licensing in May 15th, 2014. So we've been in official business for 10 years. And then we opened our doors in November 3rd or 4th of 2015. So it just kind of happened.
Wow.
And for the first 2 years, there were times that we were like, this is ours? This is weird.
Yeah.
And it was a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Many lessons learned. Many opportunities to sit back and think how we could have done it differently, what scale we could have done it at. But now that we're coming upon 10 years, we have a lot of pride, and there is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. There is a lot of opportunity for us to every day just go, why? Well, how did I get into this industry? It is a very competitive industry. There are a lot of breweries out there. We don't sell a product that is hard to find.
Yeah.
But we sell a good product, and that makes it harder. If we sold a horrible beer, that'd be easy. We're done.
Yeah.
We're done. But everybody keeps coming back and keep asking us to make more beer.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can attest to that. I'm drinking it right now, and it's awesome. So you mentioned, there's a lot of lessons learned over 10 years in business, and if you could go back, you would do things differently.
Yeah.
What are some of those tactical things that you would do differently if you were to open the brewery now?
I would have shelved the idea of planning for commercial success.
Why?
Because I think our market is oversaturated in that. I would have shelved the idea of being in every liquor store in Maryland and being in every restaurant, and quite honestly, those ideas were there because we had a lot to learn about distribution. Mm-hmm. And we have learned those lessons, and we have understood that, for a place like Waverly, where sure, it would be a dream to wake up one day and next thing you know, everybody in Maryland is selling our beer, and, I'm driving a Land Rover and all things are great, mm-hmm. but that's not our reality, mm-hmm. So I have to look at what are the good things here. What is it that makes this place special? And it is that we see the same faces, that is our community. That's the drive. It's not the commercial success, it's the neighborhood success, and it's the community success, and the success of saying we supply jobs. Mm-hmm. That is our greatest passion. Our greatest passion is making sure that we supply jobs, that we consider ourselves a guardian of this little nook of the neighborhood. I would not sleep well at night if I knew that another business on the street had its lights out.
Yeah.
You know, I take it very personally to make sure that, you know, all of our guests come in and they're safe and they feel like they are someplace that feels like home.
Yeah.
You know, last night we
Hence the deer.
Hence the deer, exactly. It has kind of, so we've had a lot of different people describe this space in many different ways. We used to be called the Shed. And then someone said it looked like a merchant marine bar. Like somebody's like janky merchant marine bar. But mostly we're told that it looks like your mom's basement. Or like a lodge, right? Not a ski lodge, but like, you know, a worker's lodge.
I get lodge vibes. I feel like lodge is more elevated, a little more elegant.
Yeah, I mean, like we've got the Boomy Temple hat up there, the Shriner hat, and that's the same vibe. Like so the other inspiration behind this is that a lot of us in this group, our families were in manufacturing. My great uncle was the first TV shop that ever sold and repaired color TVs in all of Maryland and in Baltimore City, and off of why can I not remember this, out in Highlandtown. Highlandtown Avenue, John's TV. My husband, his family's background was in steel in Middle River. One of our other partners had multi generations of people working in manufacturing and supply chain. So, you know, it certainly fit why we do what we do. I don't think I would enjoy coming to work every day if I came to work with subway tiles and, you know, marble bars and, you know, highfalutin leather. You know, well, this is our most highfalutin
it's a blue
leather.
Collar kind of vibe.
It is.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly. If you feel like you're home, that chair you're sitting in was in my house for 5 years, and then my youngest boys became toddlers, and then they thought it was a ride, and they would literally spin over and over and over again in it. And I'm like, that is too nice of a chair to be breaking, and I'm taking it to the brewery.
This is a great chair. I mean, it feels broken in. It's comfy.
And that chair over there used to be one of my dining room chairs. The bar stools were actually, I think, from the Waterfront Hotel before it changed hands, or I think during like a revamping or whatever. But all this stuff is donated or bought from friends, recycled. The wood on the wall is my favorite. It is a barn in close to the PA line near Moncton. A wife of one of our business partners, her father's barn blew down in a really bad storm.
Oh, wow.
And he donated all this wood to us.
Oh, cool.
And for, I would say, close to 6, maybe 10 days, they did nothing but sand, paint, stain. It was like a jigsaw puzzle. It was a labor of love.
Yeah.
And, you know, we saw that wall and we're like,
that's
a lot of wood.
I like how, I like all the kind of texture to it. There's different colors and some of the planks are popping out. Like it's cool.
We're proud of that. Very proud of the work that was done on that. And, you know, I've seen it done elsewhere, but it was definitely fabricated, so it wasn't as nice as ours.
Well, and one of the things that I think is really cool about this place, I remember this is another thing you mentioned to me last time I was here. Speaking of community, you've had like marriages that have evolved from people meeting here.
There's
you've
baby Waverly.
Yeah, you've had babies named Waverly because
people have met here, fallen in love here. Some have broken up here. But I mean, it's beautiful that like this couple came in, and I remember it was a very busy day, and I looked over and I was like, there's a baby on the bar. And it wasn't just a baby, it was a fresh baby. This baby was like straight from the hospital. And I was like, hey, how's it going? They're like, are you Melissa? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, we were looking for you. We wanted to introduce you to our child. And I was like, okay. I'm so glad I'm so important. They're like, no, this is baby Waverly. They had their first date here.
Wow.
And so that's why they named their baby Waverly. They fell in love here, and then I still see her. She's now I think she's close to 7 or 8 years old, and she's beautiful, and they all know me. They all, like, the kids know who I am. Their dogs know who I am. All the dogs know when I'm behind that bar, they come behind the bar, and they know where the treats are. And,
that is so cool.
But there is, like, we've had weddings. We've had, anniversary parties. We've had just some really, really fun events, but they're all usually family-oriented. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of one of my favorite things, is be on the other side of the bar and see, like, the father-in-law and the mother-in-law, and trying to get to know the other family members. And what's beautiful is that they're in a space that isn't. It's comfortable. They feel like the other side of the family is hosting it at their home.
Yeah.
So people tend to loosen their tie a little and have some fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that part is really important to us. And every time I feel like giving up, I kid you not, there's someone that emails us like, we're planning our wedding and we want to look at your calendar. I'm like, damn it. I got to keep going. Yes, I'll look at the calendar.
Well, so that's a pretty good segue into one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because, you've built this sense of community around this business, and it's challenging to run, it feels like, and you're meeting a lot of headwinds right now, but the community kind of keeps you going. And one of those headwinds that you mentioned is that there are brands like Anheuser-Busch who are making some of the resources that you need to produce the beer a lot more expensive. And that's making it tough for not just you, but a lot of craft breweries around the area and around the U.S. So can you dive a little bit deeper into that? What's happening and why?
This isn't anything new in regard to Wall Street, capitalism, how one business survives and the other business doesn't. This isn't new. It's just a new dialogue when it comes to alcohol. And, no matter who the maker is, we all still deal with some pretty old post-prohibition laws that are in place, and how, distribution, it's not like you could just find a guy who has like a flat fee and he picks up your product and gets it out there. They're making a profit, and they're making a good profit. They're not, in a place where they're able to gouge, but they have the abilities because of the laws. They can set what they feel is their market rate. And I have empathy for that. They're buying fuel, they're paying employees, they're paying workers' comp, they're doing all the stuff we are. But the concept of a brewery getting to that like level A independent success has everything to do with how many investors are backing it, how many dollars. A place like mine, we can't, I shouldn't say a place like mine, that's in poor taste, because we are a group of people that work really hard, especially my brewer, who is, we wouldn't be here without him at all. But a place like Waverly is not able to pack a truck filled with beer and turn that profit. We just can't. It's impossible. The labor, and we feel very strongly about fair wages, and taking care of their health, making sure they're getting health insurance, workers' comp, making sure they're not getting paid under the table and screwed in that degree. But each beer that we put out there is close to about $1,800 worth of cost. So when you look at big beer versus small beer, big beer isn't taking from their purse to pay that $1,800, and big banks are backing that. They're not backing small beer, because they know at the end of the month we're going into our purse and trying to figure out how to get the product out there. Where I don't have a line of credit to pull from. I don't have, in fact, it was quite the opposite. We had a really good relationship with the bank, and it was great. And one day I got a call that said, we're going to go ahead and close your line of credit because we're getting out of beer. And that was not, they're getting out of beer, they're getting out of small beer. So this is just, again, it's not necessarily the idea that anyone thinks that a craft brewery is like an independent brewery sits around being upset that they don't have as much money as the other guys. It's not that. It's the support system that we need to at least have a seat at the table. Because I do think that there's value between big beer and small beer. I think that, look, one of my favorite beers is High Life. A little pony with a shot of amaretto in it. It tastes like a Dr. Pepper. I'm like, you can't take away from the work that they've done either. But it comes down to they have the resources because of their size. And that's just economics. That's just simple economics. But in the past 15 years with this push, small business, and encourage people to start their own journey and encourage people to get out there and be a part of a business industry. But then the tools to make them survive aren't there. They're just not there. And if anything, the tools that are out there, the fintechs in the world that'll say, oh yeah, we're going to give you $65,000 and we'll deposit it tomorrow. Everything looks great. Also, you get to pay weekly at about $125 a week. It's a 2-year loan. And, you don't have any interest rate off because we just make it fee heavy. And that is what's putting small businesses out. It's not their inability to pay back a reasonable loan with fair and disclosed interest rates. It's the fact that we have to deal with predatory lending all the time. Every day when I get our mail, it's this thick with everyone that's like, we're going to get you $1 million.
Yeah.
We're going to deposit tomorrow. I'm like, no, you're not. I think I got a call on a bad day, and it was one of these fintechers, and they said, what did they say to me? They're like, you did such a great job paying off that other loan. We want to talk to you about this. And I literally said, nope, no thank you. I don't have time right now. And he goes, can I ask why? And I said, because I think you're a scumbag and I don't know how you sleep at night. And I hung up on him. So I think my name's like on a list, maybe a list of people to not call or a list of people to blackball. I don't know.
That's awesome.
But we're really just, this is simple economics. It's not about and again, think about the aluminum can shortage when that happened right after COVID. Mm-hmm. When every opportunity we had to get cans, we did. We grabbed at them. We were like, yes, buy it now because we don't know when we're going to be able to get it. And there was, in that same breath, there was another brewery who was not able to get cans. So when you look at big beer and their ability to buy grain, hops, yeast, all of these things in bulk, it's not them sitting around and be like, we'll show them, but it's more about they have the tools to buy things in bulk. They have the tools to reduce their shipping cost. We don't.
Yeah.
So that's the ugly piece of it. Do I think that there's, probably a really good, opportunity to write an amazing movie about the behind the door meetings? Sure.
Yeah.
We all know that. I'm sure Michael Douglas would be great at it. But it's still simple economics.
So if you're a small brewery
Mm-hmm.
today and you have big ambitions,
Mm-hmm.
are you basically saying that your two choices are stay small, maybe don't make a ton of profit, and you kind of have to be a business where it's about the community, you have a good lifestyle for yourself, but you're never going to be
Mm-hmm.
the beer that everybody drinks in your state or in your region?
Mm-hmm.
Or you better get investors and you better get funding and you better get a lot of
I think
powerful people involved in order to scale.
I think there's a lot of great independent breweries out there that have independent, meaning they're not backed by corporations, independent investors, and I'm not shaming investors at all. None of us would be able to do any of this without it. But I think that the line is very clear. You either decide to make your passion about community and employment and good product, or you think about growth. Mm-hmm. You can't think about both.
Yeah.
You just can't. But when you look at the difference between a small community, independently owned brewery and a larger brewery who is focusing on distribution and growth. You're not going to have the same luxuries. You're not going to have this, like the luxury that I have is I don't have to take a call every month reporting numbers.
Right.
We get to have some independent spirited ideas about what direction we go into.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds great. Sometimes it's not fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just really not fun. But I think that there's good and bad in all of it. But I do think that there needs to be an opportunity for all brewers to recognize that it's probably Gabriel at the door. He's one of our regulars. Sorry.
You can let him in.
Yeah, you can let him in. Yeah, you can let him in. It's probably Gabe. But like, here, let's
guest
see.
appearance on
Is
the
it
podcast.
Gabe? Hi, Gabe. Come on in.
You could be on a podcast.
You
if
want to
you'd
come?
like.
You want to come sit down and talk about beer with me?
No.
You just want to drink beer?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I'm close to telling you to go pour your own damn beer. Huh? Isn't it cool?
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Anyway, you guys can't see it on the other side, but that is our most beloved Gabriel, who is one of our beer society members. He has his own he has his own mug.
This is actually a perfect opportunity because we were just talking about the awesome community that
I
you built,
I
and
know.
then
All
one
right.
customer comes in. Good to meet you.
I'm gonna take one quick second and go pour Gabe a beer.
Yeah.
All
do your
right.
thing. It's all about the customer.
Only open at 5.
Okay, so hold on. What were we talking about? Oh, the community and like the difference between big beer and bad beer.
Yes.
I would hope in the next year that we're seeing the breweries that are thriving because the owner operators are choosing to come in. Like when I'm here, I'm volunteering.
Yeah.
And I'm sure half of the breweries in Maryland has an owner operator that's behind the bar and is working for free to
Yeah.
make sure they're paving the way for jobs.
Yeah.
That's a real thing, and I want to see those breweries succeed.
Yeah.
I want to see, and it again. You think about Wall Street. No one wants to see businesses fail, even if they do have big money behind them or not,
Yeah.
because that's not good for us.
Right.
Not good for anybody.
Right.
But there is a difference, just like there's a difference when. Do you remember? Are you old enough to remember Ruby Tuesdays?
Oh, come on.
Okay, good. At least it's not that big. But, like, you can't look at Ruby Tuesdays and you can't look at, Johnny's down the street and ever see that there's a different, you can't ever compare them.
Yeah.
And the difference is someone like Ruby Tuesdays is making the same thing over and over again. And someone like Johnny's is creating these beautiful, amazing meals every day that are fresh, new, and exciting. And, it's two very different things. And we have that now on beer. I don't want to say preach, but I often try to educate people to understand the value of what an independently owned brewery means.
Yeah.
It means that, there are people's houses on the line. There are people's, families who are being juggled. It always fascinates me about the idea of getting into this industry, creating a business and signing a document and walking away and hiring a staff and just getting reports. That's mind-boggling to me to think that some people in the restaurant industry function like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means like that would give me like an anxiety attack.
Yeah, right.
I like to be, and again,
Involved.
I'm passionate about it and I love what we stand for. I love what we do. And, I'm sure that we've all made jokes like, hey, if anybody in Big Beer wants to come along, give me like a $10 million check. Here's how you spell my last name. I mean, we all have that. That is something that's always in the back of all of our minds.
Well, I think with independent breweries and just small business in general, I feel like that's what the American dream is supposed to be.
Right.
It's small business. You can create opportunity for yourself. You can create a life that you want. You can support your community.
You have a flexible life.
Yeah. And to your point before, it's kind of like, that saying, choose your hard. where it's like,
Yes.
you know,
Or what's your why? Exactly.
yeah, it's like, I mean, personally, my reason for not, you know, taking on a bunch of funding and doing all these things to grow my business is exactly what you said before, where I don't want to have to lose sleep at night over what my investors are thinking. If my business is not doing well, then
You'll eat mud on your own.
at least it's just on me.
Yeah, exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
And I think even though at times that can create other difficult situations because you run out of money or you run out of cash or you're trying to figure out how to make payroll sometimes, at least
Absolutely.
it's on me. And at least, you know, I'm just responsible for myself and my team and
Yeah.
not, you know, some random investor who doesn't care about the business who's 100 miles away. And I think
Yeah.
when you operate that way, it also allows you to operate out of a little bit more compassion, and
It does, for sure.
you can take care of your team a little bit more when you don't have to make so many cutthroat decisions
Yeah.
because an investor is
And,
breathing
well,
down your neck.
And you know what? Here's the deal. There are compassionate investors in the world. The only reason why we're still open is because of places like Baltimore Community Lending, a nonprofit, who knew how passionate I was about Baltimore City and thriving in Baltimore City, and they backed us. And they made sure that we got the lending that we needed to survive, you know, the last leg of 2021, which was brutal for all of us because banks were shutting everything down,
Yeah.
you know. So I don't think that we're without compassionate lenders. I know that compassionate lenders and compassionate investors are also seeing the same news we are. What are they investing in? Are they investing in 45 different breweries? No. I hope not, because that's a bad bet. And, you know, I think that they're making their investment a little bit more broad. They're looking into technology. They're looking into medical. They're looking into so many. They're diversifying their investments much more than I think. I think the boom of what places like Food Network, and I call it the guy theory, you know.
Yeah.
Open up a restaurant is cool. Running a bar is cool. And that fuel, that passion, you know, ignited, and banks got behind it because they knew this was what that generation was on. Well, we're an entirely different generation of people who come out into the marketplace. It's a much more mindful drinker. People aren't coming in and drinking 5 beers at a time. They're drinking 1 beer. There's a giant sober community, which we very much appreciate and support. We have sober bartenders. We want our sober friends to come in with someone who's going to have a mindful glass of beer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't think that we lack those things. I think that the conversation, in order for beer to organically and locally survive, the consumer really needs to understand what they're buying into. They need to understand that if something is claimed to be made in X location, to understand whether or not it's made in another country. Not that, you know, I'm not one of those people who are like, only buy in America.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have an iPhone otherwise. But like, I think that we just need to be more considerate to understanding why we're consuming what we're consuming. And I'm finding that our customers are great about that. They tell me time and time again, they're like, we like coming here because we know that you're paying your people a decent wage.
Yeah.
We know that you're, you know, you're not putting people at risk. We know that you're closing at a reasonable hour.
Yeah.
You're not trying to stay open till midnight and encourage, you know, alcoholism.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really passionate about when it comes to the market as a whole.
That is something that I've wanted to ask some distillery, brewery, or winery owner about, and I'm happy you just brought that up, because I've had people, you know, we've gotten into the distillery, brewery, winery space in the last year or so, and we were previously in e-commerce before this, and we've had people comment on our ads, because we run ads targeting brewery, distillery, winery owners, being like, hey, come work with us, you know, we'll do your marketing, whatever. And we've had random people comment on our ads and being like, you're fueling alcoholism by running marketing for breweries and distilleries and wineries. And in my mind, I'm like, one, the people who are gonna drink will drink, and you know, it's not like we're marketing for, you know, Budweiser or like some of the big, like, I look at it as we're helping small businesses to thrive.
You can't really take that criticism seriously, though, because, you know, one of my goodness, I can't see, and I say this as an independent brewer, I cannot watch a stinking Budweiser commercial with those horses and their Labradors without bawling. I mean, I can't. Every single, I'm like, oh my God, the Dalmatian knows the Golden Retriever, and everything's amazing like that. It's just, there's always going to be naysayers when it comes to, talking about advertising. But look, when you drive down any road in the state of Maryland, it is all over. Alcohol, marijuana, vape places. I mean, this is consumerism.
Yeah.
So, as a mother of 4, I take it very seriously. As someone who has known several people in my circle who struggle through addiction, I am not here to serve you 9 beers and see you get hella wasted and have the best time of your life.
Yeah.
I'm here to serve you a beer that is holding an appointment for you and I love this term, so forgive me, but you and your bestie to sit down and have face-to-face time, because we're all missing that so much. There's so much social media, there's so much texting, there's all of these things that take that very important thing away from all of us. And sometimes, who wants to call your friend and be like, hey, you want to go out and just I don't know, go to the mall and just sit around? Nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
People watching is more fun in a bar. But it's you want to be able to have something that some people have social anxiety. Maybe having a nice beer in between you and a friend reduces that. But I would never want to create a product that harms people. And so you have to tread lightly on it, but you can't think that oh, we don't want to talk about our secret product because it might hurt someone. Again, I have 4 kids. I see what they see, on a daily basis, and kids friggin' vaping and smoking weed in the high school bathroom. I mean, this conversation is important because we're dealing with a generation that's coming out of schools and they're coming into a world of medical things that are available that our generations did not have. But when it comes to beer, it's just simple. But we don't want to have beer that's every beer is 9 to 10%.
Yeah.
It should be a nice 5 to 6, maybe 7 tops of beer that you can do. But I mean, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to actually understand where to draw the line.
Yeah. Well, I think the way that I look at it from an advertising standpoint is, you always want to promote the quality of the product first and never cross the line of promoting overconsumption.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. I went probably maybe 10, 15 years of my life, and beer was not in the forefront of what made me happy. I wasn't an adventurist. I wasn't oh, I got to try this beer and that beer. But, I was in my mid-30s, and I drank wine, or I drank a cocktail. And I remember I talked to Roy, our brewer, and I said, we were talking about, I get migraines. And he actually educated me on the things that he knew in alcohol that was going to make the migraine worse. And he says, well, how much sugar are you drinking in your alcohol and things of that nature. And I realized that it's not just the alcohol that can bring those things up. It is how fresh is the alcohol, how many additives are in it. Some beer in this world are made to last on a shelf for 17 years.
Wow.
And that is because there are additives in it. And those additives are the things that are giving you headaches. I mean, obviously, if I drank 20 of them, I would just expect a headache no matter what. But I think that when you understand the freshness of craft beer and the freshness of beer that's made locally, and we're making 5 barrels at a time, you're not going to have to worry about, all of those bad things that you're going to get in that. But I like the idea that, as you said, it's important to teach the consumer how there's a difference in quality beer or distillery, and that if you drink, if you buy I don't want to name names. Let's say you bought a $10 bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
You're going to drink it with Diet Coke and you're going to suck it down with a straw. You don't care about it. Or you
Yeah.
don't care where it came from. You're just looking to have a drink,
Right.
right? But if you get a bottle of bourbon that you've been waiting 6 months to come out,
Yeah.
I have a bottle of bourbon in my house and I call it Mommy's accounting juice because it goes into a little glass maybe once a month and I slowly drink it and then that's it. I'm not drinking giant big glasses of it.
Yeah.
But, that there is a lot to be said about why the quality is important. The personality should not make the beer.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be cool or great just because one person did it. It's the ingredients.
Yeah.
Everything is about the ingredients when it comes to quality beer.
Yeah.
And it's, the whole idea of right now we're going through a lot of low calorie beers.
Mm-hmm.
I call them diet beers. So funny. Low calorie, low ABV. Some of them are great. Some of them are not great. And it's up to the person who makes it to explain why, and up to the consumer to understand why these things are important.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about promoting the quality of the product.
Mm-hmm.
Don't cross the line of promoting overconsumption.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for, when you think about how do you balance making and promoting alcohol versus not falling into being unethical about it.
Yeah, like putting out a post like, look at all these fun drunk people.
Yeah, you don't want, you never want to promote the idea of getting drunk and encourage that behavior and encourage, you don't want to be like, hey, come black out at my brewery.
Well, what we do, sometimes I get a little slack for it because we do like to, when we get a new beer, we love to take a picture of it. Mm-hmm. It's so pretty in the glass.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, but a lot of our marketing isn't based on that. We like our marketing to be a little silly, a little colorful.
And it should, you should be able to come here and have a good time.
Right, but we don't, when we put the marketing out there, we're not trying to entice people saying look how big of a glass you could get.
Right, exactly. That's
we're basically, when we usually post stuff up, we like to post stuff up that's a funny picture or a nice picture. Mm-hmm. And just literally let the actual experience sell itself without talking about,
and I think that's the difference too. It's promoting
the chug.
Yeah, we do this with our clients' marketing too. It's you promote the experience of hey, this is just a cool place to hang out, and this is we're gonna have this cool event. This is gonna be fun, and it's not necessarily being drunk that makes it cool. It's you can have fun without being drunk here.
Oh, yeah,
it's just a cool place to be.
Sometimes I greet people when I see someone that's standing there, and we don't have traditional menus. We just have a board that we have fun, and we make it colorful, and we change it up all the time. And sometimes people just stand there and they stare, and I look at them. I'm like, "Are you thirsty?" And they're like, "I am." And then I just run it down, but I'm not none of my people are ever going to get paid more if they try to come in and say, hey, it's a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
If you buy this, you get this for free. I'm like, no, are you thirsty? Because we have beer and a pint. And that's why you're here. But it's secondary to why they really are here. Mm-hmm. They're on dates. They're catching up with friends. And that is that's how I get over the idea of selling a product that can intoxicate you. Is saying, we're just here so that friends can get together.
Yeah.
Last night was a beautiful night. We watched the game with a whole bunch of our neighbors. I think in the last 2 innings, we might have all had 2 beers tops. Mm-hmm. But the fun wasn't about the beer. It's about watching the game with our neighbors and having a good time.
Yeah.
And then also, the beer was really good.
Yeah.
But that was secondary.
Right.
Yeah. Which I love.
Yeah.
That's kind of, and again, it's not for everybody. That's just our vibe.
Yeah.
That's just what we do.
It goes back to just you're creating a sense of community, and it's a place for people to come and
absolutely
just hang out, enjoy themselves.
Someone once asked me if we would ever consider being a sober bar. There's a great non-alcohol store in Hamden, Modern World. Beautiful, so many different varieties. I think it's wonderful to see that. But I think that is an experience that you would want at home to play around with. And I think that there's been some success with some sober breweries.
Yeah.
But not that much. But I just don't think that. I think the idea of spending dollars on something that is essentially, just put in a fancy glass for $8 or $9.
Yeah.
We could buy stuff at Modern World and have fun and be experimental. It doesn't need a bar.
Yeah.
So this place for us is definitely more about, it's not just what's in the glass.
Yeah.
We also happen to make really good beer.
Yeah.
But we also, first and foremost, have a safe place where you can come in. You know that the staff is not going to try to price gouge you.
Yep.
No one's going to try to overcharge you. No one's going to try to bait you to buy more alcohol. And I'll gladly cut your butt off if I think you've had too much.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's the kind of place that that's what we're selling.
Yeah. It's fun, it's responsible, and it's a community center, basically, for people to hang out.
Which I think, I really do think that is the survival key behind breweries. Whether you're large or small, if you don't first and foremost consider who's walking in your door, it's gone. I mean, a burger joint, it's a totally different vibe. You just sell burgers. You know that somebody's going to buy a burger.
Yeah.
Young, old, rich, poor. You don't need to be as concerned with that. You just sell the burgers.
Yeah.
We have to be concerned about who's walking in our door and why they're coming in. So I think that a lot of breweries are going to find that further success in the next 5-10 years as beer evolves around that. And I think the places that are building their models based on the taste alone,
we
gonna get old.
Yeah. We hear this all the time. We talk to a lot of breweries and distilleries and wineries every week, and everybody is like, "Oh, I make the best beer, or I make the best wine, or I make the best spirit." And
I love that.
Our response at this point has to be like, "Okay, I've heard that 25 times this week. Like, what else is?"
I'm glad
else
that
is
you
appealing?
said that, because I'm really passionate about finding rare and unique other beers to serve. I think that it is a tremendous disservice to assume my beer is the only good beer. Maryland has incredible beer. California, Wisconsin, you name the beers. I mean, my list of top 10s definitely vary outside of Maryland. And I take great joy in allowing people to have that adventurous feeling, knowing that they could come in, they could enjoy an amazing orange and black and root on the O's with me, or they could try a hazy Founders that's fresh from the draft and not out of a can.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. And people are like, it's weird, you guys don't make enough beer, right? I'm like, no, that's not why we're doing it, because we want people to have an experience in beer alone, you know. And then same with ciders. For one of our parties that we're going to do for our anniversary week in November, we're going to have a cider takeover through Down East. And because cider's such a crucial part of breweries having success, because we all have friends who either don't enjoy beer or they cannot enjoy beer. And so a lot of people, the cider industries are doing great, and I think it's wonderful to offer people cider. So, I would like to see that more in the local scene as far as beer is concerned, is that I personally don't like walking in and only seeing what the brewer enjoys. Because sometimes it feels like that. Instead, I want to know what everybody enjoys, you know? But, it's like pumpkin. We had a rule here, I think it was actually written into the SOP at one point, that Roy does not like pumpkin beer. He thinks it's dumb, and he hates it. He literally was like, mark my words, we will never have a pumpkin beer. And finally, I think it was like post-COVID, I was like, dude, you just got to make one. Like, you're going to do it well.
Pumpkin beer.
Right. I'm like, you're going to do it well. Just freaking do it. And he's like, pumpkin's dumb and trendy. And I'm like, you're right. Pumpkins are dumb. But people like to drink dumb pumpkins. So please make it pumpkin beer. So we made Screaming Jay pumpkins.
It's awesome.
And it's amazing. And it's amazing. But, and I don't say that, trust me, what I really love about working with Roy, and we've been talking a lot about the industry and maybe with Waverly a little bit, but what I truly love is our brewer will make a beer and he'll call me and say, oh, I'm dumping this. And I'm like, what? You're not dumping any? What do you mean? He's like, I don't like it. I don't like it, and I don't think anybody else is going to like it. And it's not about deprecating, but it is his standards of quality are so high that he really is very passionate about making sure to serve a quality product that he can get behind, not just because of the trends.
Yeah.
So him finally agreeing to make that pumpkin, he was like, fine, I'll make the pumpkin, and I guess I'm going to have to make it amazing. And I'm like, good job. So, it is a very, very complex thing, because how many places have you gone to and you taste beer and you're like, that's an interesting...
Yeah.
Name it, beer, vodka, all the spirits out there. I mean,
Right.
there are places that you'll drink something and you're like, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
I don't want any more of that.
They're just like, oh, it's the time of, it's the season for
Yeah.
pumpkin beer, so let's just throw something
Yeah,
out.
and sometimes it's about volume. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's about we got to put it in the can, get it in the box, and get it out the door.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that if this batch of pumpkin did not turn out, I would have gotten the call. I'm dumping the beer. I hate it. And again, he just, what I love about Screaming Jay is it's not that sugary sweet cupcake flavor.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a pumpkin latte.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of fun with some of the other, like right now we have Kentucky Ale Pumpkin. It's a 10% barrel. It's delicious. Everything Kentucky does is just so good. And we have fun playing with it, and we mix it with our oyster, and it tastes like a pumpkin martini.
Wow.
It's so good. So like, again, back to having other diversity on the board. I just love to allow people to experience why we care about beer.
Yeah. Well,
as a whole.
I think it's cool. You guys know your values and know your mission, and that
It took a long time though.
yeah,
Took a long time.
but now kind of having those guiding lines allows you to follow
Yeah.
a process and run your business in a way that
Yeah.
you want to run it, and it doesn't have to be like how every other brewery does it. It's like, hey, we'll offer some beers that we don't
Yeah.
make here
Yeah.
because we value people enjoying beer and having a good
We
experience.
value the product
Yeah.
versus the brand.
Yeah.
And again, it took a very, very, very long time to get there. A lot, so many lessons learned.
Yeah.
But oh, look at that! I hear our gate. This is either Gabe leaving. Yeah, listen. He's like, "Come on in. They're doing a podcast."
we can wrap it up there.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for stopping
coming
out
on.
and talking to us about our favorite things.
That was a great episode. I appreciate you
That was
coming
so
on.
much fun.
And you crushed it.